You are listening to Heroes Never Die, your one-stop spot for all the latest news, Overwatch League results, and mishaps in Overwatch. Here are your hosts, Totemly Drunk and Edinar.
What is up, guys, and welcome back to Heroes Never Die, your one-stop spot for all things Overwatch. I am your host, Totemly Drunk, and tonight on episode 179, we're gonna let you know what's been going down over the last week, both in Overwatch and Overwatch Esports. We're gonna take a look at some of last week's hottest community topics, and of course, it is Grand Finals week, so we'll preview the showdown between the Vancouver Titans and the San Francisco Shock. But before we can get into the news and introduce you to my co-host, let me just quickly take a moment to thank everyone who is joining us tonight on Twitch for our live show, and of course to thank all of our repeat listeners out there. So joining me tonight, as always, is my co-host Edinar. And Ed, you were back. I know you just got back from Washington. We've had a lot of things like dropping in between. We got some coach changes, we got a PTR patch, we got bug fixes, basically everything and anything in between. But how has your past week been now that you've escaped Wisconsin for just a little bit?
I've been in DC for the past 4 days. 5 days. 5 days. I just got back today, so that was a lot of fun. Went to see a lot of museums. I did not make it to the zoo. And I did not see a panda. And I'm a little pissed about that because I'm like, I just want to see a damn panda. Like, they only have pandas in DC and San Diego, and they're on loan from China. We piss off China a lot. And one day they're going to be like, screw you, give me back my pandas. And then I will never get to see a panda. So I did not get to see the panda. But I saw a lot, there's a lot of amazing things at the Smithsonian Museums. I highly recommend it. You can't get through even a quarter of them in 5 days. So I had a great time. I'm halfway to completing my Lego Bastion wins because I have been gone. So I've been doing that and played a little Hearthstone while I was away on vacation and all that fun jazz. But it was a work slash entertainment type of trip. So I had a lot of networking to do. But I'm excited. It was like the perfect weekend. It just happened to be the perfect weekend. There were no matches this week.
Well, no major matches. We had tier 2, tier 3 stuff going on.
No OWL stuff. Right. It was just kind of fell on the perfect week for me to go. But, I'm always happy to come back to a patch. A patch.
Yeah, but you're also coming back to Paris.
Yeah, I know. I saw that was back in the rotation. Like, shit, they didn't delete it.
They couldn't just keep that one in there. For the benefit of everyone.
Right? So how's your week been?
It's been pretty good. Over the weekend, I had Dust to Dawn over at the drive-in. So that was a good time. I picked up some more hoodies from Greg and Jill. So now, the coat rack is just completely full, and I've moved into the closet at this point with all my horror hoodies. But man, did we have some terrible storms that day. We were driving down to Dixon, Illinois, which is out west, and it was raining so hard it really felt like you were in a car wash. So it was either just completely downpouring and you could hardly see, through the windshield, or there was just nothing at all. Like, there was no in-between. But, luckily, we hit most of the storms just on our way down. It was still raining a little bit when the first movie had started, which they showed The Exorcist as the first movie, and that started around 8 o'clock. But, we had, a tent, because we were staying with our friends who were one of the vendors. So we didn't really have to deal with the rain, but it stopped 20 minutes in, so we didn't get to the downpour during Christine when, there's a scene in that movie where it's just a torrential downpour at a drive-in in the movie. So I was a bit bummed on that front, but that would have been a little too on the nose for my liking. But it was a really good time. It's been a good weekend.
Yeah.
I have not had a chance to kind of go back and check out some of the tier 2 stuff. Because I know we had, like, the Rivalcade qualifiers and the monthly for that. We also had an invitational with some of the World Cup teams that, it was, I think, Thailand that was just kind of, like, running shot through everyone. So I'm curious to see how Mickey was doing in that, and seeing how Tito Watt was doing, because I know he walked away with the MVP. And I think, like, with that one, the winner ends up getting airfare and every, like, accommodations for the World Cup for BlizzCon. So that ensured their travel, so I'm happy to see that. Just a matter of finding the time to do that. Probably gonna have to wait until, like, early next week before I actually get to do that, just because, you know, we got grand finals, a lot of stuff going on. But it's been a pretty good week, and we got a new patch, so I know a lot of people, you know, as per usual, a lot of people complaining about the meta. People not liking Double Barrier, not liking the rise of Doomfist. Well, you know
People
what?
don't like the meta?
People never like the meta, sure
It's
enough.
like the 40th time I've heard complaints about the meta
Mm-hmm.
when it's changed to a different meta.
Yeah.
It's
You know,
crazy how that
you
works.
give it a couple of weeks, and then everyone's like, ugh, this is the worst thing that Overwatch has ever seen. Well, you know what,
Right.
guys?
Literally unplayable. This game is unplayable and not fun.
Well, luckily for you guys, there is a new patch that hit on the public test room on Tuesday. This is for patch 1.41. So this dropped yesterday, which was September 24th, and there is a number of hero balance updates. There's a slew of updates, quite a bit actually, more so than we're used to seeing, some of which are targeted towards some of the current meta heroes. Also some buffs to some other tanks, which I'm happy to see. Probably one that you're probably a little bit less happy to see because of a certain hero being meta for a lot of the game's lifespan. So let's talk about D.Va, your favorite hero of them all. So D.Va had her defense matrix regen rate increase from 12.5% to 16% per second, and then the delay before defense matrix regen begins was lowered from 1 second to 0.75 seconds. Okay, Ed, so I know this is probably one of your least favorite things right out of the gate. You know, they start with D.Va, who across the lifespan of the game has been meta for probably 95% of the time. And we see D.Va getting a little bit of a buff.
Yeah, like, alright. I know I am the complete anti-diva. I actually don't have that big of a problem with this. You know, she might have needed a little tweak, and the regeneration rate on her defense matrix is nothing that's game breaking. It just might make her more viable. This is just minor tweaks. It's nothing that's game changing. It's just, you know what, maybe she needs a little nudge. Now, did they need to do it in my eyes? No. I mean, D.Va could be bottom of the barrel and it would be fine. I'm okay with this.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever, they made some minor adjustments to her. Hopefully she doesn't come back in the meta. But, you know, I'm not overall, like, it's not like they increased the range of her matrix or reverted any of her old nerfs or anything like that. So
Right.
I'm totally okay with this actual portion, which I was surprised that I was okay with this.
Well, D.Va was just one of 5 tanks that have some balance changes with this PTR patch. So outside of that, you know, speaking of the current meta, we have seen a lot of double barrier. So with Orisa, they were looking at her protective barrier, so they increase that cooldown from 9 seconds to 10 seconds. So, you know, this is like the second time that they've changed the cooldown of her barrier. So, you know, the uptime is going to be... Uptime for the overall shield is going to be lowered, you know, just a little bit. But there were a lot more changes to Sigma that we'll get into here in just a little bit. But they also did change the amount of ammo that Roadhog has with his scrap gun, so they increased that from 5 to 6. So, you know, there's a couple of changes here that kind of affect Roadhog, that being one of them, and then another one of them kind of ties into Sigma, which we'll get into here in just a little bit. But across the board, it's primarily been a lot of Orisa, a lot of Sigma. And, part of that was just due to the fact that when you factor in the toolkit and just how much damage output Orisa has, there's really not a lot of wiggle room to sacrifice that sort of utility in favor of running these other tanks. But, Winston also did see some changes. And, with the D.Va changes too, maybe this could be more of a mix-up and seeing the return of Dive to some degree. But I will say, Roadhog is still going to have a similar issue of still kind of being an alt battery. Nothing really you can do about that just because he is one of the easier targets hit in the game just due to his hitbox. But I'm really hoping that with the changes that we are seeing here, that it's just not going to be, okay, these are the 2 best tanks that we're going to run in every situation. We need to see a little bit more variety. And if we don't get to see that, I'm sure it'll be minimum a week before we start to see the complaints rolling in again.
Yeah. I really want Roadhog to work because he's probably my favorite tank to play. I get that he's a flex tank, or he's kind of in that middle ground. It's, I really want them to work. His kit is there. You brought it up. The big problem is he's just an alt generator. And this would be unprecedented, and I don't think they'll ever do it. But you could even do something along the lines of shooting Roadhog gives you less alt charge, so he's not just an alt charge. But that would never happen. I'm hoping that this change and the change that we'll talk about with Sigma make him more viable, because he was viable there for a hot second, and then Sigma came, and it's just like, oh, boo.
Well, here's the thing with Roadhog, to be viable, that also means we have to see a lot of May Reaper. Again.
True.
It's kind of a trade-off.
I mean, yes, I don't know. There could be a whole new meta that, there could be some weird combination that we just don't know where Roadhog is viable. I don't know what it could be.
Maybe with all of the vaping issues that have been surfacing in the US, that Roadhog will just become ill and he'll start to slim down, ergo reducing his hitbox so he's not such an alt battery.
Too soon. Do you think since 3 states have banned vaping, they're not allowed to play Roadhog?
No, that's not tied in. Although it should be, but I don't think you just want to outright ban Roadhog.
Right? If we haven't banned Paris, you can't ban Roadhog. But I want him back in the game because he's super fun. There's nothing better in the game than hitting that perfect hook. Oh, such a thing of beauty.
Absolutely. So, looking at Sigma had a number of changes to his toolkit with this patch. So, first up, and this is in correlation to Roadhog, the Kinetic Grasp no longer blocks Chain Hook and Whip Shot. The Graphitic Flux high gravity effect duration has been reduced from 1.2 seconds to 0.9 seconds. Then there's also a number of changes to Sigma's experimental barrier. So the regen rate was reduced from 175 to 150 per second. The barrier now has a 1 second cooldown after you recall it. And then they also removed the initial cast time, which was 0.2 seconds from the barrier. So, this is kind of going to make it like you're going to have more like Defense Matrix in a way. Like, you're not just going to be able to just spam it outright whenever you need to replace it. And, a lot of people were looking at Kinetic Grasp and just wondering, like, well, why is it blocking some of these abilities? That doesn't quite really make sense. Like Chain Hook and Whip Shot. Not that we're seeing a ton of Brigitte. So, that's going to see a little bit less viability in regards to the actual ability. But across the board, like, when you look at the barrier, the barrier is just able to do too much. You know, you're able to use it at will, essentially, which kind of takes some of the strat behind it away from it, just because you're able to just throw it whenever you need it, wherever you need it, and now you're going to have to, you know, use it a little bit more timely, since there is going to be that recall cooldown moving forward. So I'm pretty happy with these changes, and hopefully this is going to be enough to bring Sigma down a little bit to the point where he's not just the automatic go-to moving forward.
Yeah, the 1 second delay, I think, is the big change here. The biggest change they made, because you, like you said, you can't just be like, okay, I need it here, I need it here, I need it here, I need it here. No, it has that D.Va Matrix cooldown almost, where you recall it, you can't just change it right away.
That's not like a toggle.
Yeah, so I think that's a great change. Hopefully this, you know, all this stuff cuts back on the viability of Sigma. I'm not saying Sigma's not like completely part of the meta or a crap character now, but hopefully it just opens up that spot for maybe there will be some other tanks that could fit in or something of that nature. You know, maybe we get Roadhog and we get Pulled Pork back or something along those lines. I don't know. But hopefully this calms down the Sigma hype train that is out there. So less Sigma, the better. Just not fun. Not fun to the game. Boo.
I still do like his rock throw, though. That's like the funnest thing to me.
The rock throw is fun, and the rock throw does make some great Reddit moments. But it's... I don't know. It's just the whole kit just doesn't do it for me. I'm not a fan of Sigma, and I don't think I ever will be. It's Sigma to me is on the same level as Hammond. Like, I get why they're good. It's just I have zero interest in ever playing them. I don't know why. Just zero interest. So, you know, the less Sigma that I kind of sometimes feel forced into playing, the better. So, less Sigma.
And the less Sigma, the less feet that you see.
Right? So creepy. How many Sigma cosplayers do you think we see out at BlizzCon just walking around with no shoes on?
0.
Ooh, that's a bold statement. I think I'm gonna go at 4. 4 sounds like a good number. Just walk around with bare feet and just be like, dude, you are doing it wrong.
Mm-hmm. So, we got one more tank to talk about, who happens to be a main tank. Which, you know, I'm really excited about this one personally, because I haven't played Winston in quite some time. So they made some changes to Barrier Projector, where they increased the duration from 6 seconds to 9 seconds. Then it also buffed the barrier health from 600 to 700. Now, you know, Winston really hasn't been seeing a ton of play outside of Dive, which hasn't really been meta for quite some time. And, you know, the barrier has always kind of been the most easy barrier to break in the game. So this is going to help a little bit with that front. So I'm excited. I can't wait to see how this is going to affect Winston moving forward. And also, you know, it lasting longer will help, you know, whenever you're trying to protect allies, things like that. But, you know, I at least like here that there's, like, an even spread with these balance changes. You know, there's an even spread in regards to off tanks, main tanks. They touched up on quite a few of the healers. Same with a lot of the current DPS that are meta. So, across the board, like, I have to say, like, this feels like one of the more balanced in regards to hitting each role as opposed to what we have seen in the past, which have been a little bit more heavy-handed in certain aspects than others. But I really hope this will bring back the return of Winston so I could finally get back to some AoE cleave.
Yeah, I mean, this is nice. The Winston's bubble has been, like, if there's 3 abilities that have been screwed with the most in Overwatch history, it's D.Va's Matrix, Mercy's Res, and Winston's bubble. Like, Winston's bubble has been changed so much. It went from being the best thing in the game to the worst thing to being the one of the best things to being one of the worst things. Like, it just keeps going back and forth. I like this change. He does have a pretty weak bubble, and it's less of a his bubble's weird because it's not like you're using it to make pushes or to do anything like that. It's more of a, I'm gonna put this down as almost ooh, a squirrel. Look over here. Like, it's a distraction shield almost. Right now it is because, like you said, you can burn through that shield like it's nobody's business real quick. So it's not really protecting that many people. And a lot of times Winston just puts it down by himself. Like, kind of jumps in, drops the bubble, and does the bubble dance in between.
Yeah, the bob and weave.
Well, yeah, the bob and weave while cleaving, and that's what it's used for. And that doesn't scream main tank to me. That just screams like, I'm gonna distract. Look at over here. Look at over here, and the rest of your team kills everything else. And that's I think kind of the purpose of a lot of dive teams is Winston serves as the main distraction while your rest of your team dives in on that character and they don't know what hits them. So I don't know. One thing I really want them to look at, and this is a change that would be very, very drastic, and I don't think they will ever do, is have the barrier when you drop it reduce the cooldown of his jump pack. Because that's a big thing with Winston, and I'm not talking pro play or even higher end play. I'm talking probably Diamond and Lord. When you jump in with the Winston, a lot of people just jump in, drop the barrier, and then they get melted because they can't escape. So, like, you jump in, drop the barrier, and if your team's not on point with you, you just get melted, and then you're just useless. You're just a feeder. Now, granted, you can get better at it. It's just you're limited by your teammates a lot. Now, if you could jump in, drop the barrier, and your escape mechanic cooldown is reduced, then you can get out of there and be like jump in, jump out type of situation. That would make Winston, I think, more fun for me. These are just more quality of life changes for Winston. I don't know if this will bring back dive. I know a lot of people have talked about bringing back dive. I don't think it will. I don't think these changes are enough to knock off a Instinct.
Well, let's take a look at some of the support changes that we are seeing. So first up, they made a change to Baptiste's Immortality Field, or Lamp, whatever you want to call it. So they decrease the health of Lamp from 250 to 200. So a little bit of a jump there. Lucio also saw a number of changes. So they increased the crossfade speed boost from 20% to 25%. The amplification provided by Amp It Up for the speed boost was increased from 50% to 60%, and then they reduced the wall ride speed buff from 40% to 30%. So, Lucio's kind of just always been in an interesting spot. Like, he still kind of, like, ties into dive. I will say, like, I didn't really notice, like, a huge difference in regards to wall ride. It's still very consistent in regards to the speed, so that's, like, not going to be a huge change, so to speak. I think the Baptiste change is definitely going to be the bigger of the two, primarily just because we have seen kind of, like, this rise of protect the president strategies with Bastion on the payload maps. That seems to be pretty common here as of late, especially in the pro scene. So that's more targeted towards that to make it a little bit less viable. And, having the longer cooldowns on the shields is also going to help with that as well. So that seems to be at least one of the synergies that they are trying to take a shot at with the changes that they made.
Yeah. I think the Baptiste lamp change is... I think people... I think it's a good change, but it's going to be the more drastic of the changes. The Lucio changes, I think, are just reverting old changes. Like, didn't Lucio get nerfed when like round one when they tried to nerf goats?
Mm-hmm.
They nerfed Lucio's speed boost and all that stuff. They nerfed it so you could rush in less. This seems like just they're reverting their changes because goats is not a thing.
Right.
So that's just a revert to what it was before. The I love lamp, that's just one of those things where it just makes it easier to kill the lamp. Like, it's still something you have to focus on and concentrate on. It just doesn't give the other team like enough time to really like heal up and do all that stuff after the lamp is destroyed. So I think that's a good change. It really changes Baptiste. I don't know if Baptiste needed a nerf though. Like, it's not like he's super powerful right now in the meta or anything like that. It just kind of seemed like a needless nerf.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. They may know stuff we don't know what's coming up or what they're seeing the new meta be with these changes. Maybe Baptiste is the go-to tank. I don't know. So it could, but it seems like a needless change.
Yeah, so looking at Mercy, the Valk extra beams now ignore enemy barriers. Really not a whole lot to say about that one. I don't think that's going to be like a huge game changer. I have seen a lot of Moira players complaining with the change to her Biotic Grasp, where her self-healing was reduced from 30 to 20 health per second. Now, the argument for all the Moira players out there has been like, oh, well, Moira's only good because of the state of the meta right now. That's, she's good only because of the people around her, similar to, the Doomfist effect that we are seeing in the current meta. But, this isn't going to, make or break Moira. It just means that you just might not get gold healing all the time. You're gonna have a little bit less survivability in those 1v1 situations, but I don't think it's just gonna immediately kill off Moira's viability.
Here's an option. Throw out a flippin' healing orb instead of a damage orb. Then you won't have to deal with the self-healing nerf. Just going out on a limb. Look,
that was an option?
Yeah, that is an option.
I actually disabled left click on Moira.
See, that's your main problem. No, this is not that big of a deal. Right now, Moira is overpowered.
Mm-hmm.
I think this should kind of sway a lot of the DPS Moiras away from being DPS Moiras and more towards the healing. Like, throw out that healing orb more than the damage orb. That's all it takes. Like, if you're feeling yourself not being, as viable and you're dying quicker, that just means you need to throw out more healing orbs and less damage orbs. Like, let's be real. Throw out that healing orb and then right click. Just as effective, because you're not effective when you're dead. So, this is not a big change. Moira's still going to be, if the same meta is out there, Moira's still going to be the top healer to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really don't see this changing in the playstyle.
No, because Moira's the only one who can go through shields with her abilities.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird. That's really good against double shields. I can't see why. Idiots.
You know who else is good against the double barrier? Doomfist.
Not anymore.
Who is also seeing some changes. So Doomfist, they were looking at his Rocket Punch. So the time to reach max charge was increased from 1 second to 1.4 seconds. And then he also took a little bit of a hit to his passive in regards to the shields he gets when he gets a hit. So shield health gained per hit was reduced from 35 to 30. So, a little bit less shield in. Obviously, Doomfist has been pretty prominent just due to double barrier. And, it's going to take a little bit more time to initiate fight. So, will that 0.4 seconds be enough to make or break Doomfist is going to be the question. But, at least right now, it's going to take a hit to his survivability. A little bit more time to initiate the fights, which is always good. And hopefully, we'll start to see some more DPS sneaking into the meta as opposed to just seeing Doomfist time and time again. But, luckily at our level, the Doomfist aren't even that good. So
no, they pretty much suck. Like, we don't have to worry about them at our level. I think this is a pretty big nerf to Doomfist. The charge, like, 1 to 1.4 seconds may not seem like a lot, but in testing, it's a lot.
Yeah. Like the Ash reload that we recently saw was huge.
Like, it's a lot, and you can easily get out of the way of a Doomfist charge now. Because you hear it coming, all you gotta do is move, and, you do that, and then his, like, survivability got nerfed in the shield health. Like, he got a nerf to his survivability, and he got a nerf to his main attack. Like, that's pretty drastic. So I like these changes to Doomfist. If we stick with double shield, we probably will still see Doomfist just because he punches through shields. But hopefully that's not the case, and we don't see Doomfist anymore. Because nobody likes him.
You know what else people don't like?
What?
Stealth characters.
Oh, God, screw them.
So, Sombra did see a couple of changes on the PTR as well, primarily revolving around Translocator. So Translocator cooldown was increased from 4 seconds to 6 seconds, and now the cooldown will begin immediately upon deploying Translocator, or, if it's killed by an enemy. So, honestly, this one isn't that much of a big deal. Like, you're not, just constantly spamming, when you're throwing them out, so I don't really see this being a major change, for Sombra.
Is it even a change? So, if they increase the cooldown from 4 to 6 seconds, but then they reduce the cooldown from when it starts, that's not a change. They just changed the time of it.
Yeah.
So, no. This isn't even a change. This is just it's gonna start the cooldown earlier, but the cooldown's gonna be longer.
Yeah,
and they're gonna cancel each other out.
That seems to be pretty baseline for a lot of abilities now, where it just starts immediately upon deployment. So that seems to me more quality of life, just trying to make it more similar to some of the other stuff that we are seeing in the game. Now, Symmetra also got a number of changes. So, this one is going to be kind of interesting, more so at the lower level. Maybe I'm not going to be able to just hard carry as Symmetra in our competitive games, sad face. But you know what? I'm still going to do it until this patch hits. So got a couple more weeks, at least. So Symmetra's Photon Barrier, her ultimate duration was reduced from 15 seconds to 12 seconds. They also reduced the health of the barrier from 5,000 to 4,000. They also nerfed her sentry turret damage per second from 50 to 40. And then they also made it a little bit easier to notice if you're getting hit by Symmetra with their photon projector, as it has a louder impact sound when you're getting hit. So, that's always been an interesting thing. There are times when you just don't really realize you're getting attacked by something, and, with Symmetra, it's probably one of the more sneaky abilities, because you just don't assume that a beam is doing that much damage. Now, granted, we have seen lower beam damage due to, patch 1.40. But there's a lot of times when you just can't really tell if you're getting targeted by it, unless you die, So, at least there's going to be better hit detection in regards to the audio queue on that front. But, for me, like, this is more aimed at the lower levels. Yes, we still are seeing some Symmetra strats here and there in the pro level, but it hasn't been the go-to just due to how prevalent Doomfist is in the current meta. So you're not seeing Symmetra every step of the way. But the Sentry damage, to me, is definitely the bigger hit, because Sentries slow you down, and they did a crap ton of damage, and it doesn't matter if you're doing, like, the teleport trick, or you have, a kill nest. That stuff definitely hurts, and, to me, there's more times when I don't notice that I'm getting killed by turrets than the actual beam itself.
I don't know what Blizzard has against Symmetra. Like, they're nerfing someone not in the meta. Like, I get it, at lower levels, she's annoying, but she's always been annoying at lower levels. And it's not like at lower levels we're running, Orisa Sigma every time. It's not how it goes. It's just people run Symmetra because they like doing flashy numbers and rolling people with these turrets. Like, I don't get why they even needed nerfs. I agree with you that the turret damage is the big issue here. The ultimate, while it's nice, has never been a game changer. It's nice to have that thing there, do the dance in between the two and whatnot, but it's not that drastic of a change. The turrets are, because that's, you go into the washing machine and you get less damage. Like, that's an extra second of escape or survivability or whatnot that you can survive from these. So that is a pretty big change. I don't see why they even needed to make this change. I think they just hate Symmetra.
It's all my fault.
Yes,
I should have.
It is 100% your fault. They're like, we saw a gold DPS player play Symmetra, and you know what? It was a thing of beauty. We need to nerf her.
Mm-hmm. My bad.
I know exactly what's going through their minds.
Mm-hmm.
It's
I mean, we know they listen to the show. I mean,
that's ESPN right there.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I got the Espen. I can sense what Blizzard is thinking right now.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, Edinar, you're an idiot.
Maybe they're the ones that have been leaving the reviews.
Right?
Maybe. I don't know. You never know.
I would laugh so hard. It's like, it's secretly Jeff Kaplan, like, screw this guy. I'm gonna leave it anonymous.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, I'm on to you, Blizzard.
I can see it now. So we do have one other change to a DPS hero, and this one is for Tracer, who saw her pulse pistol damage fall off starting at 13 meters, which is up from 10 meters. So, a little bit more poke from range, but not like anything technically mid-range or long range as of yet, so just means that I don't always have to be directly in your face to, finalize a kill in that front. But I will say, like, along with the balance changes, there are some pretty notable bug fixes with this patch that we have mentioned in the past. So I know we had talked about Brigida's rally having issues, so they added a new line of sight check. I know there were issues with rally in regards to getting applied if someone was on a staircase or a ramp. There were also pros out there who were using Meteor Strike to completely avoid impact damage from Gravitic Flux. So they changed that, so, you're not going to be able to do that and just completely escape taking the impact damage. I know Haxel's been doing that trick throughout the playoffs. Maybe that's what they did.
I don't get why that's an issue. I feel you should be able to use Meteor Strike to avoid taking the damage. Like, you can use Meteor Strike to avoid taking damage in all other ultimates. Why not this one? that's a weird bug fix.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I know it's small and not that effective, but like it just seems like a weird fix. I don't know if
I think it has more to do with the timing of when the meteor strike is getting used, because it was like almost neck and neck when the impact damage would be going out. So they're basically like waiting till the last second in order to hit the meteor strike, like as the flux is coming down. But we'll see. So hopefully, Rally will be gone through all of its issues at this point. But that's all of the changes on the PTR. There's a lot. So as per usual, guys, definitely go update the PTR. You're not using as much disk space anymore because of the shared install, so you don't have to really worry about that. So go check it out. Let us know what you think of the DPS changes. Who you think is going to be viable in the new meta. That's always fun. But we'll see how exactly this is going to shake things up moving forward. But, good chance that we'll probably end up seeing this stuff mid-October alongside, the Halloween event, the Switch release, and, getting deployed ahead of the World Cup for BlizzCon, which is coming up very soon. So outside of that, not only did we have a patch on the PTR, but we also had a bug fix patch on live servers. And this is patch 1.40.1. Now, what exactly changed in regards to the bug fixes? One, as I mentioned, unfortunately, Paris is back in the map pool.
Boo!
They fixed a bug that allowed players to shoot through the spawn door.
Boo!
I know. Feels bad, man. Outside of that, they also reverted the change to edge placement abilities for ground targets like Shadow Step, Ice Wall, and Teleporter. As we talked about, it was very finicky. Like, you couldn't really have a lot of high ground spots to use your Ice Wall. So they reverted that back, so that's going to be back to normal. But there was one other update that is current for the Bastion's Brick Challenge in regards to the skin. They updated the muzzle flash VFX because fans were reporting that they were having difficulties using it due to the animations. I can't even think of another instance where they've had to update something so quickly, animation-wise, especially for a skin. That's just not something that we really hear about. But, good on Blizzard for actually taking care of it immediately when the challenge is still going on, because obviously, a ton of people are logging in to get their 9 wins and get the skin. And that was a pretty quick turnaround to apply a bug fix for it, so kudos on that front.
Yeah, good on them on fixing that. Boo on them for fixing the other stuff. Actually, no.
But primarily, the Paris was the problem.
Yeah, the teleportation thing. Okay, fix that. Good on you for that. The Paris thing. Screw you. Damn you, Jeff Kaplan. I said it. There it is. Screw you, Jeffy. Shake my fist at you.
Yeah, well, be sure to just ignore him like Stitch did if you ever run across him, and then don't shake his hand.
That's what I'm gonna do. And we're gonna be like, hey, Papa Jeff and Jeff Cap, and then just give him the finger. And be like, that's for Paris.
Wow.
And be like, what the hell is this crazy guy doing? And then I'll probably be like, I'm drunk, so ignore me. I mean, there's a possibility.
You never know.
But, fine, fix these things, get them out there.
I just hope someone breaks Paris again. That's all we need. One less assault map is a good change for everyone.
That it is. That it is.
But anyways, let's go ahead and shift gears and talk about what's been going on within the community. So first off, I actually saw something on Reddit, of all places, that was found via one of the workshop modes, which was kind of like a treasure hunt type, find X amount of items that are scattered throughout the map. So there was a new object that was discovered on Eco Point, Antarctica, that has led to a lot of questions about whether or not that this is a teaser to something bigger that is to come. So there's a new snow globe that was found that has the word gray in it. Now, inside the globe, you got some particle effects, some sparkling effects, and of course it has, like, the Overwatch logo attached to the snow globe. And what's interesting about this is it's not, like, the same color scheme. It's, like, the light blue scheme that we saw in the May animated short, Rise and Shine, which also took place on Eco Point. But, this was kind of just discovered in a find items mode, and you're not able to, like, destroy the item or dislodge it from the table. So a lot of people are like, well, is this going to have anything to do with the new hero? Why has this been added to the game? Is there anything to it? Or is it just there just for no reason whatsoever? So, Ed, what are your thoughts? Is there anything to this gray snow globe?
Jean Grey confirmed. We're doing an X-Men Overwatch crossover, and we're getting Jean Grey.
Okay.
No, I mean this is obviously something. It just is. Yeah, Blizzard doesn't just randomly put something into a map that hasn't been there before. That has no meaning.
How do you know it's not Mysterio?
Because Mysterio, spoiler, has no real powers. So,
but he did use a giant globe. Which, by the way, Far From Home is coming out on DVD. Everyone needs to.
I actually bought it and watched it twice on my trip to DC. I love that movie. No, it's gotta be either something. It's gotta be something with the new. Another character in, like, along with May, or with May's storyline, or an evil scientist up on Eco Point, or
we don't have enough evil scientists.
Or maybe it's the Abominable Snowman. Maybe it's a polar bear. Oh, they had a polar bear in Lost. If they had a polar bear lost in a jungle, I mean, these people are in Antarctica. It could be a polar bear. It could also be a penguin. We don't know. But it obviously means something. And I'm going with a new character because, let's be real, we're a month out from BlizzCon. And we will get a new character at BlizzCon. Guaranteed, we will get a new character at BlizzCon. So this could just be in the long line of clues that they leave, which they do all the time. So I just don't think they figured it would be caught this quick.
The funny thing to me is just the way that it was found.
Yeah, like a scavenger hunt. Like, I didn't even know scavenger hunts were a thing in Overwatch. It's kind of cool.
Apparently it is.
So, I like that idea. I like the idea of scavenger hunts in this game. But yeah, it was found out in a weird way, but it obviously means something. So, new character. Gonna happen.
Yeah, well, I'm curious to see if or when it's going to tie into things, or just what the gray aspect of it means. But I at least like the fact that it ties into Eco Point and the Rise and Shine animation, just due to the color scheme that we are seeing. So more on that soon, maybe. We'll have to wait and see.
Probably not.
Probably not. We're not gonna get anything else for the next 5 weeks. Never know. But what I do know is we got new merch out there for the Overwatch World Cup. And no, it's not from Fanatics, because I know that would be the first thing that anyone would ask. It's not from Fanatics, it's from Into the AM, who did last year's World Cup stuff, same with last year's Overwatch League stuff. So we got the 2019 Overwatch World Cup team jerseys that are available to order. We got jerseys available for over 40 different teams. So not only do we have jerseys, there's also like blankets, they got hoodies, there's some leggings, which have been a pretty hot topic just due to the design on that. But you know, I was looking at these, and you know, the designs on these jerseys, man, like they're so standard among all of the teams. Too standard. There's really not much to them, and
they suck.
the problem is, like, basically each jersey has like up to 3 colors for like the country flag, essentially, which is like across the torso, and then they have like the country name like on the right shoulder, and the variations between each jersey is so slight that it's just so hard to tell what each one is, especially if you have like 2 that are red and white themed, because the only differential really is just the country name, or you know, the shortened name or acronym, whatever you want, however you want to put it. But now all of them, of course, have like the Coca-Cola logo. But like, I felt like, you know, in the past, you know, it was a lot easier to tell what each jersey was for. Now, I will say, the one thing that I am happy with about this is that, you know, I do like rooting for Australia. I'm not the biggest fan of just wearing primarily yellow. I don't know if I have it near me.
What you got wrong with wearing yellow?
But, like, here, as you can tell here, I even have, like, here's one of the older ones. You know, it's primarily yellow and green. But mostly yellow. I know a lot of Aussie fans are going to be happier with this design, just because they don't really like wearing yellow. But across the board, it's just, like, really, like, it's so hard to tell these countries apart with the jersey designs, but I at least like the fact that they've expanded to cover a lot more, just in regards to the overall teams that are competing. But man, they could have done a lot more than what we got.
Yeah. Like I said, these suck. Like, they're just bad designs. Like, they literally, I can't justify suggesting anyone purchase these.
They're $60, by the way.
$60 and it just has your country's abbreviation and a crappy color combo, and then Coca-Cola on the front. Except for Team USA. Team USA has no advertisement on the front. I don't know if he caught that.
That's because they don't expect Team USA to last long enough for people to want to buy the jerseys.
I don't know about that. Because, like, Bulgaria has Coca-Cola on the front. So they screwed up that. And then they have the G-string leggings. And I'm just like, I saw those, and I'm just like, huh?
Yeah.
Who in the marketing department looked at that and was like, yeah, that's good to go?
That was probably 10 out of 10. I'm sure that was a guy that came up with that design. Here's the thing, like, the leggings are like the first esports leggings that we have seen. There has been a huge outcry from the female fan base about their options in regards to merchandise. I know Fanatics did introduce like a women's line this year, which had its own fair share of issues, but like the whole line placement on the leggings is just like,
it's not
the hell?
It's not the leggings. It's literally the line segments on the leggings. You could think the worst possible line segments, and that's that. Like, that is what they have. Like, the person who designed these needs to get brought into the office and just bitch slapped. And be like, you're an idiot and you're fired. Like, this is just stupid. So, outside that rant, these jerseys are just plain and blah. Just not worth it. Hopefully, when we actually go to BlizzCon, they have different ones. Fingers crossed.
Wishful thinking.
Wishful thinking, but, you know. Now, I will say it is pretty cool for some of the smaller countries. Because if you take out like Team USA, Team South Korea, Canada, stuff like that, where you have the larger player bases and the larger fan bases, and we criticize this stuff all the time. But if, let's say, you're back to Bulgaria, if you're in Bulgaria and you're an Overwatch fan, this is the probably like the only chance you have to have like a country uniform for the Overwatch League.
Mm-hmm.
So those I like are it's cool for them. It's just these are bad designs.
Yeah, I hope when it comes to like at BlizzCon at the booth where they're selling these, that it's not like just a situation of like, okay, we're gonna have like the top 10 selling jerseys up on display, and then everything else is gonna be hidden away. Like how shitty would you feel if you were on one of the less represented countries and being like, oh, do you have this? And then it's just like behind the counter.
Right?
Like,
it's
you want to at least show off the designs, but, you know, when all of them look the same, maybe that's not the best idea either.
Like, I think I saw something where, like, 10 different countries have the red with the white sleeves.
Mm-hmm.
Exact same design. Just different initials for the country. Like, I'm just looking at it real quick. So, let's see here. Canada, Austria, Denmark, Japan, Latvia, Peru, Poland, Singapore, and Switzerland have the exact same jersey. Exact same design. I'm just like, oh, that's just lazy.
Yeah, the other thing to note, too, is we obviously know that, like, not all of the countries are going to pay for the airfare, the hotel accommodations, and things like that. So does that mean come BlizzCon that they're just not going to stock those jerseys? Because that, to me, would make sense. Like, they'll still have them available online to purchase, but they'll just have on hand who's actually represented there at the time.
Yeah, no, that makes the most sense. Just have the countries who are participating there to sell, so you can support. Like, you don't want to have like like everyone wearing Australia jerseys, and everyone's like, "Well, where the hell's Australia?" Like, one of those situations. So yeah, I would imagine it's all countries that will be there. But yeah. You can pay $60, as Kesha puts it. You can pay $60 to advertise for Coca-Cola, while also paying another $60 to get G-string leggings.
Those are $50. Okay.
50. Sorry.
So you got the jerseys for 60, the hoodie is 60, the throw blanket is 45, the leggings are 50. I will say I do like the baby blue colors. For the hoodie, throw blanket, and the leggings. Mm-hmm. But those line places, man, like, it just makes me shake my head.
Horrible.
Like,
somebody needs to be fired over this.
We can only hope. But you know what? Let's talk more about esports. So we actually have quite a bit going on in regards to, like, coaching changes. We also have an update in regards to Tier 2. So for starters, Elo Hell announced a new project, which they dubbed Project Inferno. So they're going to create a new team called Elo Hell Dante. I see how this is going, you know, there's a little bit of a theme there. So the project is basically looking to give aspiring pro players the same resources, publicity, and professionalism that you would get at higher levels of play. So at the center of this project, you have IOStux and Lemon Kiwi. So IOStux will be serving as the project's coach and director. Lemon Kiwi will be serving as a content manager. And of course, you know, she's been doing, in the past she was like with Overwatch Contenders Daily, doing a lot of stuff with Tier 2, doing a lot of casting as well on that front. And IOStux has been with some of the academy teams coaching. So basically, right now, they're doing, like, a tryout phase, which is open to the public, and I know they got, like, a form up for all of that, but the team is expected to launch in the NA region in 2019 for Quarter 4. So, you know, I'm kind of anxious to see how this is going to pan out. Like, I know Like they kind of like tried to do similar things in T3, but they haven't really had the longevity. But with it being attached to Elo Hell, I have a lot more faith in this project, just due to the fact that they've been pouring a lot more effort into trying to just sustain the environment in Tier 2, in Tier 3. And, we've recently saw the return of Rivalcade. We've had, like, these other invitationals, both in the Pacific and in EU. So, anything that's drawn more attention to those platforms, I'm really excited to see. And, I'm curious to see how exactly a team like this, which is grown from the ground up, is going to be able to perform at that level. And, maybe they'll be able to find a couple of diamonds in the rough through this whole tryout process as well.
Yeah, this is pretty cool. Now, I don't know much about it, but IOStucks. There was a hubbub about it in our Discord about him, and I know nothing about him. So what's the hubbub about him?
Okay, that was primarily after he was calling out a lot of other managers in Tier 2, and Tier 3, saying that all of them were basically shit. And they were running things wrong. Basically, like, putting everyone on blast that was, like, in that part of the competitive scene. That I just remember. But, like, this is someone who was, like... I remember at one point, he went through, like, this whole, like, GOATS thesis after the 3-3 meta was basically done with. It's just like, well, why would you put, like, a 75-page article about a meta that no one's gonna play anymore? But it was really, like, him calling out, like, that entire community that really pissed a lot of people off.
Oh, whatever. Then who cares about that? like, let's be real. If one coach is calling out other coaches, I don't care about that. That just adds to the drama, which is fine by me. I will say this, 2 things. One, I'm excited. I think they're going to get some quality players because a lot of these Tier 2 players that aren't signed with teams, like the best of the Tier 2 players that are not signed with contenders teams, will want to go to this team because not only will they be in an organization, they will also be in a very visible team. Mm-hmm. And something that it has the connections to the pro levels that, other teams cannot offer. So this is a great way for them. 2, and this is just me being an annoying Star Wars fan, the font that they use for Project Inferno in their video is a ripoff of Star Wars fonts. And you should never use Star Wars fonts in anything because you know what? I see that and then I immediately think of scrolling text afterwards. And not cool. Not cool. So you got my hopes up. If they would have followed it with like a scrolling text, I'd have been like, okay, these guys got this. They probably would have been sued, but they got this. But that's just me, being me, I guess. This is, I'm excited to see this. I do love Lemon Kiwi. She does a great job. I enjoy her in her like broadcasting that she does. She's quite good. She's knowledgeable of the Tier 2 scene, which you don't get all that often. And I think that's why Jane really kind of chose her to spearhead a lot of the stuff with Elo. So, you know what? More power to them. I'm excited to see them. This is probably our first big name team to form. I guess if you're thinking of it like an organization forming from Overwatch. Like with all the name attached, we've had teams like Second Wind and stuff like that came in with great teams and did well. Same with last night's Leftovers. Great team came in and performed well. This is an organization everyone knows that's not Overwatch related to an Overwatch team that's coming in late. And being okay, us from Overwatch, but now we're putting an Overwatch team out there. So this is like the first of its kind for its popularity. So I think all eyes will be on this, and hopefully it does well.
Yeah, I'm just curious to see like where exactly they're going to start. Like, is this going to be a team that's going to start in like Open Division, or are they just going to try to get invited to like qualifiers or monthlies just right out of the gate? So there's still a lot of questions that I have about, what path exactly they're going to be taking, but I am really anxious to see how they are going to fare. Now, outside of that, we do have some coaching changes in regards to the Overwatch League, so let's start, Ed, with your favorite team, the Houston Outlaws. So Outlaws have announced the departure of their head coach, Tyron, and their assistant coach, Hyun Wo. And both coaches have been with the team since they were first revealed the roster back in October of 2017. So under their coaching, we've seen the Outlaws finish in 7th place in the inaugural season with a record of 22-18. And then this year they finished in 16th place out of 20th with a 9-19 record. Now what's important about this is you have 2 Korean coaches here. Who were the only Korean coaches on this team. So the sole remaining Korean on this roster is Arhan, who I do not expect back. I do not expect him to be back just based on his performances. But, this basically stems after the amount of issues surrounding, the financials and the sale of the team. And basically, the Outlaws were basically frozen from making any sort of move. So this is just, the first step into making some changes. And we're probably going to expect quite a bit more changes to come out of the Outlaws camp. But, are there any, particular teams that you could see Tyron moving on to? Do you feel like he's going to find a new home on one of the other Korean squads or another mixed roster?
I see Tyron becoming an assistant coach for the Shanghai Dragons. Now, I will say this, and everyone expects me to knock on them. I actually am not blaming the coaches for the Outlaws' downfall. I think they were put in a shitty situation.
Except for their substitutions.
Their substitutions suck. But, the thing is they were given a team, and they're like, okay, you have to do well with this team, but you're not allowed to make any changes. Here's a team. You make this team work or nothing type of situation. Am I surprised that they were let go? No. But I'm not blaming them for the Outlaws being bad. I think it was a matter of ownership, the coaches, and the players. Even across the board. It just, none of it meshed well. And then knowing that you could do nothing about it just brought the morale down. Tyron probably deserves to get another shot to prove himself. And with the recent departures of who we'll talk about next, with the Dragons, I think he would be a good assistant coach over there. Could be there. He could go to maybe Chengdu and go coach over there. But I think Shanghai is a good spot for him to kind of go as an assistant coach and then prove himself for a possible future head coaching position.
So the Outlaws weren't the only team to make some coaching staff changes, as we are going to look at the Shanghai Dragons, who announced the release of their head coach, Bluehouse, as well as their assistant coach, Levi. So Bluehouse had coached Kontu Panthera prior to the Overwatch League. And of course, that was the team that the Dragons basically went out and poached from going into the 2019 season. Levi had coached Element Mystic prior to the Overwatch League. And, all this follows the restructure heading into the new season for the Dragons. Dragons had a pretty big turnaround this year. We saw them become the final Sage champions in Overwatch League history, since, Sages aren't a thing anymore. And they finished in 11th place. They made it to the play-in tournament, didn't qualify, for the postseason after that, which was kind of unfortunate, but night and day difference between Season 1 and Season 2. Now, they have already announced a coach sign-in, and they have turned to former LA Valiant head coach Moon. So Moon is going to serve as the head coach for the Shanghai Dragons in 2020. And, looking back, Moon was released from the Valiant back in March. And since then, he has been coaching the Shanghai Dragons Academy team over in Contenders China, that being Team CC, who had recently finished in second place in Contenders China, with their only loss being to LGE Hua in the grand finals. So, looking at 2020, Dragons, like most of the other teams in the league, are going to be hosting 2 homestand events, both of which will be taking place in Shanghai. But, we have a familiar face returning to the Overwatch League. You have a promotion, in this case, from that organization, going from, Path to Pro to the Overwatch League. So, we kind of get, like, a little bit of a redemption arc here for Moon. We'll see how he's going to make do with this situation. But, Bluehouse is another one of those big names. Like, I cannot imagine him taking a step down. He's going to have a lateral move. I would not be surprised if he ends up going to, like, London. Would probably be my primary pick for him. But, it'll be interesting to see how much shuffling around there is with coaches and seeing how many teams are going to try to poach from the final teams. Like, I want to see how much movement we're going to see from the Titans and the Shock after the season ends.
Yeah, no, I'm interested to see that too. Now, a lot of people are like, okay, the Dragons let go of their coaches who got them to the Stage 3 finals. Well, let's be real. They got to the Stage 3 finals, and then they did nothing after that. They took a giant crap after that. Mm-hmm. It's just the Shanghai Dragons are this year's Season 2 Boston Uprising. Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, like, Boston Uprising in Season 1 had one really good stage, and then would kind of crap the other stages. Or middle upper tier in the other stages. And that's how this was. It's just, they weren't performing. Moon, who, I'm not saying is a bad coach, was the scapegoat for a team that was not built for GOAT's meta. Mm-hmm. He was 100% the scapegoat. So, he came over, he coached their Contenders team, did well coaching their Contenders team, and they gave him another shot, and it all matters on how it works with the organization. The Dragons coaches will probably end up going somewhere else. Like you said, London's a choice. Kesha, Seoul is another choice. Like who knows? They're not going to be head coaches, but they could be assistant coaches elsewhere. So it'll be interesting to see where they're at. And like you said, we don't know who's going to get poached from where. Like we were talking in chat, Junkbuck from the San Francisco Shock is the most obvious, logical choice for the Houston Outlaws to poach from the Krusty tree, the Krusty coaching tree, and poach him, an American coach, to come coach their American team, like with mostly Western players on it. Like it makes sense. So it will be interesting to see who gets poached from the Shock and the Titans specifically, because it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. So. I have nothing against this signing with Shanghai, with Moon becoming the coach, because I think he was kind of given the raw end of the deal with the Valiant. Wasn't he the one who decided that Kareev was going to go from tank to support or whatever?
Well, Kareev wasn't a tank.
What was he before he was support?
DPS.
Oh. Same difference. Went from one role to the next.
Yeah. So outside of that, there was a kind of you hate to see it moment that happened not that long ago, revolving around someone that's going to be playing in the grand finals. So looking at San Francisco Shock and DPS player Striker, had a little bit of an accident where he suffered a hand and leg injury a week outside of the grand finals. So while we don't really have a ton of details on the accident that happened, I know Striker was showing off his wounds, so he had like some cuts on his left hand as well as his leg. It's important to note that the injury that he sustained is not serious enough to prevent him from playing on Sunday in the grand finals. But like, it was just one of those moments where you're like, really? Like, talk about timing. But like, I don't think like this is gonna be enough to like sway anyone's votes for, you know, who they're gonna think is gonna win the grand finals. It didn't look that bad, so it should be pretty healed by the time Sunday rolls around. But it was just, it's like, you don't want to put your players in like protective bubbles like so close to the finals, but it just made me kind of like laugh. It's just like, man, like kind of a little too close there on that front.
Yeah, it looks way worse than it actually is. And honestly, he's lucky it was his left hand that was injured. So it's his, you know, his ASWD, you know, fingers and not his mouse hand. Because I think if it was his right hand and on the mouse, I think we're talking a whole different situation here where that would actually affect it. And I think this just will affect it less, if it affects it at all. It looks worse. We still don't know what happened. So we get to make all sorts of assumptions. I don't know. I'm going with... do I want to go... He got into a street brawl with, like... I'm thinking... Think Anchorman fight scene. But with, like, Overwatch League players, and then you have League of Legends, and Fortnite, and then Call of Duty, and then Dota. Like, you have all those people fighting in a ring. And Striker is more like the Brick. He's like the guy who brought the trident to the fight. And like, Brick killed a guy. I'm sticking with Anchorman quotes today for this podcast. So like, I went with I Love Lamp, and now I'm going with Brick killed a guy. You should probably lay low. You're wanted for murder. So that's what I'm going with. I just like to always, you know, come up with random stories about how they got hurt. But it looks like more than likely, it looks realistically road rash from like biking. Like he biffed it on a bike type of situation.
Well, looks like the ground struck first.
Boom.
Feels bad, man.
You guys may harass my jokes. Totems are way worse. Mine are just more in depth.
See, that's the difference between you and I get straight to the point.
And I like to explain. I like a backstory to my jokes.
Yeah.
Never really works out well for me.
No. Usually not. But anyway, so an update on the grand finals. They've expanded the musical acts that we are going to see over the course of the weekend. So we have 2 more guests that were announced over the past week. So joining Zed for all of these festivities, you have Questlove, who, if you're not familiar with Questlove, he's known primarily for his work with The Roots, who are the in-house band on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. He's also produced some popular songs, like with award-winning artists like Amy Winehouse. He's worked with John Legend in the past. And he's basically going to be, like, doing the music for the breaks between maps during the grand finals. So this is either going to be a very short gig or, like, 7 maps worth. You know, who knows at this point. But I know they also approached some other EDM artists like Martin Garrix for September 28th. They also have DJ Ghost performing for the FanFest, which will also be the morning of the 28th. But, you know, they have, like, all of these things planned throughout the weekend. So, you know, they're going to have activities taking place in the parking lots near Xfinity Live throughout the weekend. So if you're out there, you know, there's a lot of stuff going on. I know, like, they also announced they're going to do Plat Chat and the Four Heads podcast live, and they were selling tickets for that. There's a lot of stuff kind of going down in Philly just during the grand finals week, so we'll see what it. So if Zed doesn't remix, Overwatch stuff, maybe Questlove will be the one to do it in this case.
Okay. I have thoughts on this, as some might have expected. So we have 4 people performing music,
but it's not all for the grand finals broadcast
and the pre-show and the party. So they've announced 4 musicians will be performing.
Mm-hmm.
So you got Questlove, Zed, DJ Ghost, and Martin Garrix are the 4 that have been announced. We have 4 sets of music where no words will actually be saying. 4 people performing, and not one person will actually be singing music. Yeah. I don't get it. I get 1, maybe 2, but everything is EDM or DJ or. I get that's probably the genre they're going for. And this makes me sound like a massive boomer. But give me some form of rock.
Okay, the other aspect of this, Ed, is there are times during major events when if they do have a singer out, they just do pre-recorded stuff anyway.
I get that. But imagine a Super Bowl halftime. Obviously, not on the same scale, but imagine a Super Bowl halftime where it's just Zed, but none of the people that sing the songs come out on stage.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what they have to approach this as. I don't get it. Get some form of actual band out there, not DJs, not any of that stuff. Get a band out there with guitars, microphone, drums. I know I'm the old man in the group, but
so
you know what?
You're not expecting any surprise appearances.
Maybe they could for Zed. No one else, I think. Maybe for Zed. I think Questlove, if he does do the breaks and stuff like that, playing the music, totally fine with it. That's awesome. They couldn't have found someone better. It's the actual performances. I want to hear people. If I'm going to a concert and it's not I would go see Zed if I'm in go to a full concert and I'm paying. I'm I want to go see Zed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not paying to go to Overwatch League and be okay, I'm not in the mood to hear techno or any of it, just a DJ play music. If I'm here and I want to hear music, I want to hear people singing live. I don't know. I'm a boomer, I guess. But I'm okay with it because I feel a lot of people actually agree with me on this. And I secretly think you do too, Totem. That you're it's a little bit too DJ heavy.
I mean, I wouldn't be seeing half the X anyway, so I really wouldn't care.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Where are we actually going to be watching them? Probably not.
I'm interested in the halftime stuff instead, and Questlove. The other stuff, no big deal. But the bigger thing for me is not so much who they have, but the problem that a lot of EDM artists and a lot of these DJs have is you've probably heard of their songs, but you don't know that they were the ones mixing it. And that's always a bigger issue. If they were to get someone like Daft Punk, I feel like it would be a completely different story. Because that's more recognition just on name alone, as opposed to some of the other artists that they picked up.
Yes, it's, Daft Punk is one of those names that transcends, just being, EDM, like a DJ. It's like, it's kind of like it. This is a horrible comparison, but I'm gonna make it. It's kind of like getting like Kanye. It's one of those things where you're just, he does his techno, he does his rap, he does his lyrics. It's just, but he transcends all of that.
He also likes fish sticks.
Yes, he likes fish sticks, but he transcends all of that. He really does.
Mm-hmm.
So like he's in a genre all his own. And I think Daft Punk is in a genre all their own.
Right.
In regards to that. That's kind of what I was making. That's the point I was getting to. But, at least it's not DJ Khaled.
Yeah, that's the important thing. Like, there's only room for improvement.
What if Zed does his song and then he brings out DJ Khaled?
I'm pretty sure that the Overwatch League as a whole would rather just forget that that was ever a thing.
Like, what if Zed just starts playing and then we in the background we hear, and another one, and everyone's just like, you just hear a giant sigh from the crowd, like, damn it,
Right?
He found us. Shit, we tried to hide from DJ Khaled and he found us.
Just breaks through the wall.
Mm-hmm. Like Kool-Aid Man style. Like, crap. Oh, yeah. Another one.
Who knows?
We have talked probably more about the halftime performers of the Overwatch League finals than, like, any other podcast combined.
I don't know. My favorite thing is, though, the amount of people that are just like, who?
So many people have zero idea who the hell Zed is.
Or even Questlove, which is
Or
even more
Questlove.
boggling to me.
I think more people probably know who Questlove is than Zed because they watch Jimmy Fallon.
That's a good point.
Like, most people probably know Questlove from Jimmy Fallon and not as so much as the Roots.
Mm-hmm.
And like, but like, if you play Zed's music, everyone's like, oh yeah, I know that song.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, yeah, that's Zed. So like, the majority of people, when Avicii was huge, like everyone knew who Avicii was, but nobody like they knew his songs, but they didn't know who it actually was. They just knew the songs. And that's how Zed is right now. So, R.I.P.
So now that we've gone through our halftime, discussion, let's talk about the actual grand finals, which is the actual event.
Fair enough.
Depending on how you want to look at it. So, of course, we have the final match of the season, and we got the top seed of the Vancouver Titans going up against the third seed San Francisco Shock. So how did we get here? Well, the Shock, they lost to the Reign, got dropped to the lower bracket, and then Shock are like, yeah, it's cool, we're still gonna punch our ticket and just forego literally everyone in our way. So they had a perfect run in the lower bracket, not dropping a single map. You have the Titans, who are entering the grand finals, who have not lost on control throughout the playoffs. And turns out, when you have two control maps in these first of four series, that only bodes well, especially when they both happen like right before a break. So, send in someone into the break on the back end of consecutive losses is always good on that front. But when you look at the playoff pool, there really aren't a lot of head-to-head statistics that we have seen between these two based on the 12 maps that we do have. Kings Row is really the only notable one that has a huge differential between the two teams, as every time the Titans have faced the Shock, they have beat them on Kings Row. And that is in 4 different times. So Kings Row, definitely not the map you want to be on if you are the Shock. But, looking at this, at the season series, these two teams are tied at 2-2. Head to head, they're very even. These have been teams that constantly go the distance every time they meet. But it's worth noting that Titans have looked a little bit shakier in their wins compared to the Shock. Shock have been very dominant, but do you expect that level of performance to persist for the Shock, knowing that they have forward everyone when, we saw the Titans take 7 maps to topple NYXL, whereas, the Shock ended up picking up the win 4-0 in the lower bracket finals.
It's one of those things where Shock are coming in as the hot team. And in most sports, the hot team is always the favorite team. Whether they're the highest seed or the lower seed, they're generally always the favorite. Now, the one thing against that is they've had time to cool. They've had that week off of, okay, we had this momentum. We had such a phenomenal last, their last week where they basically rolled through everyone. They played 3 matches, won all of them, just destroyed. And you know what? If they would have played last weekend, I think the Shock would have probably steamrolled the Titans just on pure momentum, because the Titans took the New York Excelsior to map 7, so they can't come away from that feeling great, knowing that the team they're facing just 4-0'd them. So you have that momentum from the Shock, but when you get a week in between, you have time to think things through. The other team gets cold. It evens the playing field. I still think the Shock are riding high coming in. It's gonna be an iffy matchup. I don't know. These are 2 teams where I do not know what they're gonna run. These are the 2 teams where you could tell me they run this and they run this, and it's different than what anybody else has been running, and I would not be surprised. Now, do I think that it's going to be that way? Probably not. You're probably going to still see, probably May Reaper, maybe some Bastion, some Doomfist. Doomfist mainly. You're going to see that, but I would not be surprised if we saw some wonky things, because they were just practicing it. They're okay, they're going to do this, let's do this type of thing, and we're going to see some craziness. I think all the fan base is behind the Shock too. Not all the fan base, but the majority of the fan base is, because the Shock are coming in on this steamroll of rolling over 3 teams, and you got to see them 3 times in 1 week before the finals. Whereas the Titans, you saw them play 1 matchup that they almost lost, and that's the only lasting impression you have from them. So I don't know. It's going to be a great matchup, because let's be real, they have never played each other and anyone's been disappointed. This is probably going to be the best matchup of the year, because the season 1 or stage 1 and stage 2 finals are 2 of the best matchups I've seen, period, in Overwatch League. And now this is for $1 million. They're going all out. We're going to see some crazy stuff. This is going to be a great matchup. I'm going to be sitting in front of my TV, drink in hand, watching all of this, and I couldn't be happier about it.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, because yes, the Shock are coming in as a hot hand after sweeping their way through the lower bracket, but it also means that there's more tape out there. regardless of if it was 4-0s, when you just add up all of the maps, all of the series that they played, we got to see more of the Shock than we did the Titans. Now, that being said, that doesn't necessarily mean that the Titans will 100% be able to figure out how the Shock have been operating. But what's important to note about this is when you look at the head-to-head throughout the season, while Titans have dominated Control in the playoffs, they've been very even in the head-to-head on Control. The Shock have actually have the advantage on Control, but it's only by, like, 1 map win. Like, it's not a huge differential, and that's true for basically every single game type right now. So you have the Shock, who, when you look at the map pool, their only distinct advantage is on Assault maps. They have the advantage on Hanamura, on Horizon, and on Anubis in regards to the overall records. And Shock won the only head-to-head that was on Assault in this map pool. So they're undefeated on Hanamura, they're undefeated on Anubis, and they have a better record on Horizon at 8-3. That's not to say that, you know, the Titans are bad, because, like, you know, they only have 1 loss on Hanamura. They played Anubis 14 times, which is the most out of, like, any map in regards to the current map pool, and they've walked away with a 10-4 record on that front. But Control has definitely been the most important map type throughout the playoffs. Like, we haven't seen teams losing, like, map 1 and then going on to win the series when all is said and done, which is why Control is so important. And right now, the Shock have the advantage only on Ilios in the head-to-head. The problem is, though, when you compare these two teams, you have the Titans, who are 9-3 on Busan, 11-3 on Ilios, and 10-2 on Lejeune Tower. Whereas across the board, Shock have 12 map losses on Control. So to me, like, if you're the Shock, if you're not able to wrestle one of those Control maps away, which both happened within the first 5 maps, that just causes such an uphill battle throughout the rest of the series. But the Titans have just been so dominant on it, but just not against the Shock. I just wish that we had more head-to-head statistics on the current map pool that we do have, but that's going to be a key story to watch. Same with the evolution of the tank line that we have seen, because obviously they're running, you know, Tizzy on main tank. Janu has not been spectacular across, you know, the playoffs so far. I definitely feel a lot more comfortable with what we have seen from, you know, the Shock side of things, but the Titans' biggest thing is going to be able to maintain control on the King of the Hill. And Janu's going to have to come up big, because Choi Hyobin, you know, despite being, you know, Golden Boy Choi, has really been the heart and soul of that team. Because I don't think you could solely come in and rely on the Doomfist duel between Haksel and Sinatra in this series.
Yeah, Haksel and Sinatra are going to be huge. I don't want to read too much into the map series, the head-to-head map series, because the map series, the head-to-head map series that we have with them, truly, I'm not including Stage 4, because if anyone who knows anything about Overwatch League, Stage 4, when they played, that was not a real matchup. It just wasn't. And all their map history is goats. Goats versus goats. This is a different meta. I'm throwing all that map difference between them out the window. And I'm going on more, what have they done for me lately type of situation.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, they've dominated basically every map, like they both have, and that's one thing. It's I don't think any of these teams have one distinct weakness from maps right now, and I think the map selection is not going to be as dramatic as some people think.
Yeah, I mean, really, like, the only ones that stand out are Teams Row. and maybe I don't know, like all the other ones are pretty close. But like to me, Ilios and Kane's Row are probably the two biggest takeaways in regards to the actual map pool, at least with differentials.
Yeah. Now, do you think? All right. Do you think Vancouver sticks with Tizzy?
Yes.
Do you think like? I guess. Do you think we see anything crazy? Do we still see Smurf out there?
You know, I don't expect the shenanery in the grand finals, primarily just due to the fact that there's $1 million on the line.
I mean, maybe not shenanery.
To me, it's more of if you fall in a hole early, you're more likely to see something like that as a back pocket strat.
Yeah. If somebody's down like 2-0, they throw something crazy out there. Just try and get that map win. I mean, I can see it. I just don't know what to expect from these. Like, Sinatra versus Hoxel is going to be a key matchup. I think Violet versus Twilight is like the support lines in general. Because, I mean, you have probably the two best support lines in the Overwatch League going head to head right now. You know, with Slime and Twilight versus Moth and Violet. Like, those are probably the two best support lines in Overwatch right now. And that's really going to be the key right there is who can perform the best out of that. Like, I know you said Choi and is going to be key and Janu is going to be key on the Sigma plane. I think it's going to revolve around the support players. Really, when it all comes down to it. And I want to say, I think the Shock will actually pull this one off.
Mm-hmm.
There's something about it that I'm just like, you know what, the Shock are the ultimate scrappy team of everyone not counted them out, but like saw a decline in stage 4 and they didn't know, like, they're like, okay, Super's bench, Sinatra's bench, what are they doing? What is all this? And then they're like, you know what? No, we're going to throw in Striker, we're going to throw in Smurf, and we're going to be just as dominant as we were stage 1, 2, and 3. Yeah, you know, and I think they're just going to be like, no matter who we throw out there or what kind of, what kind of views we throw at them, we're going to win. And I think that is going to work out in the Shock's advantage.
The most storyline thing to me with the Shock would be if this were to go to the distance and for them to close it out on Rialto after the snafu that we saw in the first round of the playoffs. Like, that would be like the storybook ending for the Shock to win it in that fashion. Now, I know, like, a lot of the analysts have been predicting, like, 4-2s in favor of the Shock. I would prefer to see this one go the distance just because that would just continue the narrative that we have seen throughout the entirety of the season. And, you know, like, my head says one thing, my heart says another thing. Like, I do think the Shock will win. I prefer to see it 4-3. But man, do I really want to see the Titans pull this one off. Primarily just because it reinforces the new kids on the block. Now, granted, they're mostly not kids. Like, this team has been around for quite some time. But what a story it would be for an expansion team to come in and win the championship right out of the gate.
It would be, but, like, can you consider them a true expansion team? Like, that's the other thing you gotta think of with that is they're not really an expansion team. They're an old team with a new name.
Well, it's not like the Golden Knights, you know.
Yeah.
When they had their run. But you know what I mean, though. Like, it's just
I know
a new team to the league.
A new team to the league would win it, yes. But let's be real. The Shock are essentially a new team to the league. They had, two people that played or the majority of their team could only play like the second half of last season.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, they had already been knocked out, really. So this is a new team for them as well. Like, not maybe on the same level as the Titans, but I don't know. I think the Overwatch fans also want to see a non-Korean team win something in esports. Like, let's be real. Like, Koreans have dominated esports across numerous games.
Mm-hmm.
This would be a big win for Western esports, is if the San Francisco Shock can come together and be like, you know what? No, we're not letting you win this one. I think it would be a big boom.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, they have 3 Koreans starting for them, but that's besides the point.
And a Korean head coach.
Again, besides the point. So I don't know. I think people will be pulling for the Shock. Majority of people will.
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy either. I like both these teams, so I'm not going to be upset no matter who wins. So
I'm just glad that when all was said and done, we did get the 2 best teams that have been consistent throughout the season both compete in the grand finals. Like, we couldn't ask for a better finals than this. Because part of me would have been let down if either one of these teams were to have gotten knocked out of the lower bracket. Thankfully, that did not happen. So, when all is said and done, of course, there's the grand finals MVP, Ed. So, who do you got? Who do you think is going to walk away with MVP of the 2019 grand finals?
I want to say Moth, but he'll never get it. A main support will never win an MVP because they're not flashy.
Well, that depends. How many people are going to get booped off with the bridge on Eichenwald?
Yeah, I mean, I'll go with Sinatra. I think Sinatra will. Just because he'll probably pull off a lot of the flashy stuff that tends to get these. But I think Moth will be the real MVP of the game. Who do you got?
I'm trying to think. Do I go with who I think is
going
going
for
to
the
win, or do I go with my heart?
Are you going to go with the elusive, our team lost, but I'm the MVP?
With how much impact Moira has had, I would prefer to see it go to a support. I do get the slight edge to the Titans support line. So I think Twilight will walk away with it. But if Hoxel or Sinatra either walk away with it, or even Choi, like, those would be like my primary picks. Like, if it's not Sinatra for the Shock, it'll probably be Choi.
Yeah. I mean, even Janu. If you look at Sigma, Doomfist, or Moira play. Like, those are the 3 flashiest, probably. Like, Orissa's not gonna win it. No, nobody gives 2 craps about
Look at me,
Orisa.
I can shoot shields.
Yeah, right? Like, Reaper's not gonna do crap. So, it's probably gonna be the Moira, Sigma, or Doomfist players.
But man, I can't wait. Only a couple more days.
Yes, a couple more days and we shall have a glorious finals.
Hopefully another 4-3. I don't want to see it stop. As cool as it would be for the Shock story, after just 4-0 and everyone in the lower bracket, I don't want to see that in the finals. But you know what? At this point, it's going to be really hard to be surprised. But I will say, like, at the end of the day, you have the 2 teams who are used to performing in the clutch. And there's something to be said about that runaway core that is in that moment that they just find ways to pull it out when all is said and done. Will that be the case in this situation? I honestly don't know. Like, the Shock are coming in as a hot hand. Whether or not, that 2-week break is going to be enough to cool them off remains to be seen. But it's either going to be like a 4-1, 4-2 in favor of the Shock, or Titans will clutch it out in a 7-map series.
Yeah, I agree. It's impossible to predict this. It's impossible. Like, I want both teams to win. Can both teams win? Can we get that elusive? No, we can't.
We can't.
It's best of 4, so we can't even get some weird tie.
First 4.
First of 4. We can't even get the weird ties. I don't like it.
I mean, we can tie, but then we just keep progressing through the map order.
Yeah. But then, no.
Someone's eventually going to have to win.
Someone will eventually have to win.
We haven't seen the elusive payload draws,
It's the elusive 10-map draw.
Mm-hmm.
It will happen sooner or later. No, it won't happen. It's not like the elusive 5-run home run. It's gonna happen. Hey, by the way, how are the Cubs doing?
I haven't actually been watching because they always play when I'm doing other shit.
It's kind of like the Brewers are in the playoffs and the Cubs aren't.
I honestly don't even know.
Just saying.
That's nice.
Yeah.
I'll still laugh when the Brewers don't win in the playoffs for you.
Hey, but we'll be in the playoffs.
Yeah, see, that's what my Dodgers friend said. But then, they just don't win the World Series despite how much money they spend. And then I still laugh at him.
Fair enough.
But, I mean, if the Brewers make it, I will be rooting for them over the Dodgers anyway.
Good, you better.
So yeah, of course, tune in Sunday, 2 o'clock Central, I think is what it was, for the grand final. Should be a good time. Hopefully no one will be disappointed. Hopefully this will live up to the expectations that all of us have. It should be a slobber knocker, a barn burner, whatever you want to call it. Should be a good time.
Really, JR? You're gonna call it a slobber knocker?
Yeah.
Alright, fair enough. I'll let you be it.
And then at the end of the day, only one Titan will emerge between these two.
Are you gonna start selling barbecue sauce too? Like good old JR?
I don't think I have that reach yet. Like, I haven't branched out enough into
You
my
haven't hit
barbecue
that-
foray.
You haven't hit that level yet? Alright,
No.
fair enough.
But when I do, I'm definitely going to shill it on the podcast.
I
Any
mean,
chance I get.
mandatory.
Yeah.
You have to shill out whenever you can.
Mm-hmm. That's just part of being in business.
Mm-hmm.
You got to use whatever platform you have,
Right? Be like, oh, come do this stuff. Come buy this. Come buy this. Then hopefully it works out.
Then it's just going to be 45 minutes of product placement. And then everyone's like, well, where did the content go?
Be like, where's Ed's rant? It's there, just with product placement.
Mm-hmm.
The beauty of product placement. Watch Wayne's World.
Yeah.
You'll get what
I was
what I
actually going to just bring that up. But with that being said, guys, of course, make sure you're logged into Twitch or whatever different way so you can get your cosmetics. You gotta watch 3 hours of the grand finals to get all of the sprays and all that stuff.
If it goes 3 hours.
This is also true. But watch point will count towards it and whatnot too, so that'll help. If you do need that extra buffer, same with the post-show stuff. But with that being said, we are going to close out the show for tonight. So if you guys want to help us out, of course, the best thing to do is to go leave us a review over on iTunes. We are always looking for ways to improve the show. If you would like to find additional Overwatch-related content, we do have Overwatch Recall, which is our podcast directory for all things Overwatch. So every Sunday or Monday, we have the Weekly Recall, where you can find a listing of all the prior week's episodes from all of the various Overwatch content creators out there. So for more info, be sure to check out Overwatch Recall on our website, and then also follow Overwatch Recall on Twitter at OWRecall. Now, if you would like to support our podcast network, you can do so a number of ways. We do appreciate any sort of Twitch Prime subs that are thrown our way. I don't know if September is still going on or if it's at the end at this point, but either way, Twitch subs are always appreciated, and we do have our Patreon page at patreon.com/OWL Network. We do have tiers starting at just $1 a month, so any sort of support you guys can throw our way is greatly appreciated. So you too can join the likes of our Messer and Above patrons, Blaze Bob, Brandon, Jay-Z, Owl, and Kesha, in helping our network grow. We have not added any DJs to that, so, maybe we'll get on there at some point. But outside of that...
could get another one?
Another one. We could always get another one in regards to patrons, Ed. It's just a matter of, can we continue the trend of the musical acts, okay?
Oh, I can butcher someone's name quite easily.
Okay. Well, you work on that after you tell everyone how they can get a hold of us on all of the social medias.
All right. So you can reach us through email, and that's at hndoverwatch@gmail.com. We are on Twitter, and that's at hndoverwatch. We do have a website, and that's at www.owlnshow.com. We are on YouTube, and that's youtube.com/Overwatch League Network. We are on Discord, so come join us over there at discord.me/OWLNshow. And then we are streaming presently live on Twitch, like Totem had said, at twitch.tv/OWLNshow. So come over. We are a Twitch affiliate, so help support the show by subscribing to our channel and earn our network emoticon. And it looks like September is over, actually. So still come over and sub. We do podcast and stream pretty regularly. So Mondays, we have Overwatch League Network, which airs Mondays at 7 p.m. Pacific. RIP OWL by the Numbers, which air Tuesdays. Momentarily. Until we actually have, fantasy Overwatch to talk about. And then we have Heroes Never Die, airs Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific. And then host streams, when available, run on a flex schedule, so be sure to follow us to be notified when we go live. We do have the Patreon, like Totem said, at patreon.com/OWL Network. So if you want to help us even further, starting at just $1 a month, you can help support us and help deal with all the fun stuff that comes with podcasting. You can reach me personally on Twitter, and that's at EdinarOverwatch. Totem, where can I find you?
Oh, I'm also on Twitter at TumblyDrunkCTR. But with that being said, guys, I hope everyone enjoys the grand finals. I'm sure a couple of us will be hanging out in the Discord talking about the games as they happen. But you have been listening to Heroes Never Die. This has been episode 179. Man, we're getting up there. I've been your host, Tumbly Drunk, joined, as always, by my co-host, Edinar. And we'll see you guys back for our next show. Take care, and have a good
one.